Everyone is absolutely fucked if they don't hold Bitcoin. We get digital IDs at the end of the year. And then what happens? Then they bring out central bank digital currencies. And then what happens? Then we have social credit scores with $3 million unrealized capital gains. If they want to bring it in, that's just total wealth confiscation, communism in this country. And people like, it's only going to affect a small portion. I'm like, you're missing the point, ladies and gentlemen. Once that law is in place, we need to come after your house now. We're not going to notice these incremental totalitarian footsteps that they're doing. But you'll wake up in 5 or 10 years and realize, like, oh shit.
How'd we get here?
Everyone in the fiat system is a fucking slave. If the government says jump, they jump. Here's a jab, they fucking take the jab. Like, everyone is absolutely fucked. If they don't want to hold Bitcoin in self-custody, they have no freedom.
Hey guys, welcome to Crypto Collective. I've got the one and only Sean Clarke from G'day Bitcoin here to join me today. We're going to dive deep into everything Bitcoin and a little bit into his personal life as well, if you don't mind. Sean, welcome.
Matt, thank you so much for having me on the show. Such a pleasure.
Mate, it's awesome. I want to jump straight into just a big credit to yourself for everything you're doing in the Bitcoin community. You've been orange pilling people now for what seems like years and years, and I've been a big fan of yours and a follower for probably since the inception. Now, tell me though, you've grown so big now. How do you even get these big players? We're talking about before the big print. You can show the book, Sean, The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard. How do you even go about getting someone like that on your show?
I guess part of it's definitely a little bit of luck, for sure. But I think more importantly, it's just showing up every single day or every single week. And then being a little bit strategic with these guests. People like Lawrence Lepard, Preston Pysh, Mark Moss, Natalie Brunel say like, Bitcoin's very sort of like flat, but say the A-level celebrities, if you just want to put a label on them. For me, sort of starting off as a nobody, is very hard to be like, hey, Preston, do you want to come on the show? Lawrence, do you want to come on the show? They're like, who the hell is this person? I'm like, we want to get your message out to the Australian Bitcoin community. And they're like, no, pass. So you'd go out with a guest and bring on someone that had maybe a couple more subscribers than me. If I had a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand at that stage, maybe someone that had 2,000 or 3,000. Have them on, and then just sort of work up from like the D to the C to the B to the A, and to be able to go for it. But once you start getting into like the A and B list Bitcoin and spokespeople, advocates, I wouldn't say they're influencers or celebrities.
I heard a new one the other day, KOLs.
KOLs.
Key opinion leaders. I didn't even know what that was. Someone said, I wanted KOL. I was like, what the hell's that? Anyway, so you're a key opinion leader, by the way. You're a KOL.
I love it. KOL. Cool.
Yeah.
It's almost cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, when I watched, I just want to say, when I watched back, because I've seen the couple of episodes you've done with Lawrence Lepard, I just think, God, I don't know enough about Bitcoin. Every time I hear these guys, do you feel the same thing?
Mate, we're just talking about it. It's, I've been here for 6 years, 2019. I got into the space, I believe, September 2019, and started off with Bitcoin and crypto, or crypto and then Bitcoin 2 weeks later. But after that, it's been like 4,000 or 5,000 hours. I've just consumed myself, the amount of podcasts. I've read nearly every single book on Bitcoin. And then I'll have a conversation like with Lawrence Lepard that came out last week, and I'm like, I did not know that. And I'm like, I've got so much to learn. And it amazes me, like, how many more thousands of hours can you put in and continue to keep learning? But then you look at like the OGs that were here right from the start, or say like 2013, 2017, and they're still learning something new every single day. And it's so fascinating. It's really the only thing in my life that's really kept me focused and paying attention to one particular thing for so long. And instead of going like surface level, it allows you to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it sort of touches, not sort of touches, it ends up touching every single area of your life, your consciousness, your health, your spirituality. It's phenomenal.
Everything now I look through the lens of Bitcoin. Even someone said to me today, Matt, you should go and get the Porsche. Get rid of the Mercedes and get the Porsche. I was like, I don't know, just it's going to cost me too much money. And, because I'm thinking about just stacking as much Bitcoin as possible. Because, I mean, I've told you before, Sean, I'm dematerializing physical assets.
Yeah.
Had property settled last week. I've got another couple of more properties to settle this week. What are some of the things that you're doing, I guess, to to stack more Bitcoin? Because before you answer that, I was listening to Peter Dunworth recently, and he used this new term I'd never seen before: terminal Bitcoin. Had you heard that term before?
I haven't, but it makes sense.
Terminal Bitcoin. I was like, damn, I'm going to be facing terminal Bitcoins at one day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how have you continued to stack more Bitcoin? What are some of the things that you do?
Yeah, I guess earlier in my journey as I stayed. So let's sort of go back to the start of my crypto journey because it'll make this make sense. So called up a mate. I was living with him for a little while, for 3 months. He had just sold his online internet business for millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty incredible young guy. He was just a couple of years older than me at that stage. And he came back to Australia. I ended up meeting him and helping him set up a couple of things, permaculture farm, etc. Anyway, I left him and I came up here and I gave him a call one day and said, mate, I had $400 in my safe in cash. I'm like, I've got $400 here. What stock should I buy? He's like, I don't tell my friends because if they invest and it goes like to zero, they're not going to be my friend. I'm like, bro, it's $400. Like, tell me or I'll flush it down the toilet. Like, it's monopoly money.
Yeah.
I've believed that for a very long time. So I know that like the paper fiat dollars was worthless. And he's like, well, I'm not into stocks, I'm into crypto. I'm like, cool, what crypto? He said the crypto, so I bought that crypto. And then I Googled, I'm like, what is cryptocurrency? And Google spits back, the first ever cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, how much is Bitcoin? It was $30,000 Australian. And at that moment, I was just like, oh, I have ducked up here massively, because in 2013, when I was working on the cruise boats in the Great Barrier Reef out of Cairns, we'd clean the boats. And then I remember one week I was standing on the back of the ship waiting for the new guest to go, and Bitcoin was $94 AUD. And I'm like,
So
I'm going to buy Bitcoin. Clearly.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And then I bought something else and that all went up in smoke. I was a total degenerate. So I had a week-long bender, went back out to sea for another week, and then we were doing the same thing, cleaning the boat, waiting for the turnaround for the new guest. Bitcoin was at $96 Australian. Like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. Didn't buy it, Matt. Again, it went up in smoke. And then it was like 2017, Bitcoin must have hit a new all-time high or something. It came back into the consciousness. We ended up buying it to be able to buy stuff on the dark web, but it's just fiat in, money out into the dark web, things would get shipped on the mail. And that was sort of it until 2019 when I Googled it, and the price of Bitcoin when I Googled it was $30,000 Australian. I was like, oh my God, this has gone up 300x when I first said I would buy it 4 years ago. So that sort of hurt a little bit, but I researched it, and then I just started reading everything that I could, a lot of Andrei Antonopoulos at that start. And so within like a couple of days after that, I realized, okay, Bitcoin is the money. It's like digital gold. Somehow that stuck in my mind straight away. I didn't know what the altcoins were. Like at first I thought they're like a technology play and like in it for the tech, you know, I like truly bought into that psyop, that propaganda, that misinformation and disinformation, and so the incredibly effective marketing messages from those founders and stuff. And I did pretty well. Like, I was buying Ethereum at under $70 Australian, quite a lot of it, under $80 Australian for a lot of it. XRP, like, I don't know, like so tiny. Solana, they're sort of the main ones, and then a couple of like lower tier, but like Ethereum went on to go to like four and a half grand Australian when I was selling out. So that was pretty crazy. But throughout that whole time, I realized Bitcoin was the money. And even when I was talking about cryptocurrency, I'm like, guys, if you get a 3x or a 5x, take out your initial or take out all your profits and leave your initial there, but just put it into Bitcoin, put it into Bitcoin, put it into Bitcoin. And I felt like at that stage, while even though I was talking about some degenerate projects and stuff like that, I felt like if people did that, obviously not financial advice, do your own research, but if they followed along, at least for me, it did pretty well. And then I got majorly rug pulled by the founder as sort of in a personal attack with this project. And I was like, had that light bulb go off and I was like, holy shit. Like, sorry if you're not allowed to swear. Hopefully the producers can bleep me out. But I was like, this is all just fugazi. This is just a shit show. Like I am out. And then from that moment, I have like zero crypto. It's 100% Bitcoin only. The closest that I've come to dealing with crypto was literally today at a cafe helping a lady sell her Crow XRP Ethereum into Bitcoin. She was 65 years old. But that's the closest over the last couple of years that I've come to dealing with cryptocurrency, because I'm just here for the money. So that's sort of what that journey's been like. But doing that and then making all those fiat gains and stuff, I could have taken quite a few years off to just be able to run my own race, do whatever. But at that stage, because I'd been trading crypto and it was more swing trading, not day trading, and going off the market sentiment, and people would come in, manipulate the markets, but it was so often that you could see that pattern repeating, like every couple of days, 30, 40, 50% pump, and you just take chips off the table. But I realized through that experience that I hadn't really developed any skills or learnt anything where I could provide huge value back to society. So I stayed at my bullshit job, and I kept doing the Bitcoin podcast at that stage, and then I was stacking skills on the side. So sales, email marketing, obviously with the YouTube. Cold outreach was a great, amazing skill like you're asking about at the start, to be able to reach out to these big players from a cold email. Or one thing, just to go back to that point, was with these big players is interacting with them on X and talking to them and providing value with their tweets and stuff, getting my name into their consciousness, so that after 1 or 2 months I could message them and be like, hey, we've been talking for a while, can I get you on? Yeah. But anyway, so I was stacking skills the whole time, just working the job. And also at the start of my journey, I don't know if it came from Andre Antonopoulos or whatever, but it was like, just buy Bitcoin week in, week out for 4 solid years. And that was my plan. Like, I'm just going to buy for 4 years. When I made all that gains, I probably could have sort of stopped because it wasn't moving the needle too much, but I'm grateful now for doing that. I gave up flying, I gave up everything that was costing extra money, and just head down, bum up, stacking skills, doing that. And so, Sean,
when you say stacking skills, you're talking about stacking skills like online sales, marketing skills, is that right?
100%. How to be able to build websites, how to be able to integrate payment processes. At one stage, I was trying to drop ship both Bitcoin clothing and others. Didn't work out too well. Definitely made a couple of sales, but it was more about like how to run Facebook ads at that stage to be able to promote it, like learning all that. The emails was definitely one. How to build WordPress websites was another big thing. That's
and so in that, Sean, did you have anything that you that stuck, because if I just say, I've done a lot of online sales before, and I see a lot of people who do it, and the first couple of things, they might not work out, but they're building, like what you're doing, you're stacking skills, and eventually something sort of takes off a bit. Was there some failures and then success, or did you hit something out of the park in the beginning?
No, at the start there's no success, but we will get to the success very shortly. So it's like a whole lot more skills than I've got on my channel. Did that, and then got to a point where I was like, there is 0 point for me still being at this job. Like, I'm not enjoying myself. I'm showing up like I literally don't need to be here. I could have left 2 years ago. And so one day I was like, here's my resignation letter, 2 lines saying thank you very much, 2 paragraphs saying here's my last opportunity to tell you to study Bitcoin as much as possible. It's an incredible resignation letter. I'm sure they hated me for it, especially seeing the price now. But I literally did everything I could to hopefully get them to study. I doubt they did. And then because I had all those skills behind me, I said to my wife, she's like Australia's expert in lived experience mental health, so within the mental health field. And she was doing a lot of consulting. And, some days she was in tears. She's like everyone wants like a piece of me and stuff. And I'm like, why don't you just, I'm like, oh, are you saying the same thing over and over and over again? She's like every single consultation. I'm like, why don't we just package it up, make it an online course, and then they can go through that first before they speak to you. And then when you're meeting with them, it's a higher level consultation instead of going over the basics first. She's like, don't know how to do this. I'm like, I can do it. She's like, you don't know how to do it. I'm like, yes, I've learned the skills to be able to do that. So the video editing, setting up the WordPress websites, integrating the LMS, learning and using AI. So at the start of it, or last year, I was using AI like 4 to 6 hours a day to be able to code this website and integrate everything and get the email remailers out and the newsletters and the pop-ups and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because I'd learned all those skills. So we did that, we packaged it up, we recorded the first course. We now have 3 courses, like every week there's 2, 3, 4 live deliveries of the session, executive level coaching, etc. now. So yes, the success came eventually, but it was like, try something, get knocked back down, try something, get knocked back down. And it just felt like I was endlessly being punched in the face and I couldn't breathe till eventually I was just like, I can't be at this job anymore. There's no point me being at this job. Let's get rid of it. Let's open up and see what's possible. And then I could see that my wife happened to have a real problem in her life where she just couldn't deliver everything she wanted to. And she's in this area because she wants to make a change to the system. It really aligns with Bitcoin. It's like a people first movement. And so I was like, all right, like, let's do it this way. Let's try mix it up. And so we've gone from there to like her life's changed, my life's changed in sort of just over the last 12, 14 months since doing that. And like when it comes to Bitcoin, like what we're doing now with our income and stuff is allowing to stack even more, but never touch the Bitcoin, which was sort of always the point.
So basically what you're doing, because people are going to find this fascinating. Now they want to know, how do people stack Bitcoin? Do they do it in chunks? Do they just do a DCA every week? What's your strategy? Just every week DCA or daily?
No, I do it every 2 weeks. Before, when I was employed, I'd get paid on a 2-week cycle. I also set up a self-managed super fund, and I was lucky enough that most large organisations will deposit the money into your superannuation or your self-managed super fund every 3 months, usually every quarter. But they're doing it every 2 weeks as well. So I was buying Bitcoin in my super every 2 weeks, and then with every little bit of savings, so I know like my fixed costs are pretty good and they've been consistent for sort of the last 3 years nearly. They've sort of stayed the same, maybe gone up a little bit, but we've cut out other things. So they've sort of stayed the same, but anything over and above would just go straight into Bitcoin. So like every 2 weeks for the last 5.5 years consistently, I've bought. And if I've ever missed a 2-week period over that 5.5 years, I've made it up by stacking 2, 3, 4 times in another week. But like at a minimum, I've averaged every 2 weeks for the last 5.5 years when I've been in for about 6.5 years.
And do you do anything like, as you go, do you think, hey, we don't want to have Netflix anymore, we're going to cut Netflix, that's going to Bitcoin? Is there any other sort of changes that you did?
Yeah. So the only 2 subscriptions that I'd never live without is like a high-end AI. So ChatGPT is for me, and then YouTube Premium. And then everything like that, like Netflix, we don't have. We really cut down on holidays. We never cut down on our food. We've always spent quite a bit because you are what you eat. So sort of before going on carnivore, it was like a lot of smoked salmon and things like that. Replacing that with meat, food costs have stayed the same. But yeah, just being intentional not to... Well, I guess the biggest thing, so like flying is my joy. It's what I like doing, small aircraft and stuff. When I got into Bitcoin, at the start of 2020, I'm like, I'm going to stop flying for 4 years and I'm just going to stack Bitcoin. So I cut that expense out of my life, and that's $440 an hour to go up.
How are you even affording to do that back then? I mean, that's an insane amount of money.
My job was pretty good paying, and like I've always worked, even like throughout all my addiction and stuff, I've either always been hustling, selling on the side, or working, saving. So I got into Bitcoin 6 years ago, but for the 4 years preceding that, like we were paying off the mortgage like crazy. We're just trying to get everything all the way down. So there's a huge amount in the redraw.
Do you do anything like, one of the things I've actually utilized is actually using part of my redraw to allocate to Bitcoin. Because the way I see it is I'm an absolute Bitcoin obsessed. I look at all the capital that I've got lying around. I'm like, dude, I can get that. I can pull money out of my mortgage for like, currently it's under 6%.
That's right.
And I can dump that into Bitcoin. Now, I've obviously got the conviction, much like what you do, so I don't have any problem with it. And of course, if you can afford the repayment, because there's an interest component there. Do you do anything like that?
100%. So what we were doing for that 4 years before Bitcoin was getting the mortgage down. And I think if we kept going as hard as we were, maybe it would have been, I don't know, 8 to 12 months and it would have been totally paid off.
Wow.
And then I found Bitcoin, you know, and then the redraw is a lot higher than what it was before we started, you know, paying it off 10 years ago. But it's just because of that opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying grab all the money out of your redraw and put it into Bitcoin.
I'm saying it.
I would say that over time, that's going to pay out very, very well for people. It has for me. It sounds like it has for you, Matt. What I am saying is understand Bitcoin as quickly as possible so that you can lead yourself to have that conviction to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's some of the cheapest money that we can get, really. But you have to definitely take into account being able to pay those higher interest expenses with your repayments. But anything to be able to get money, like to be able to stay at that job where I really didn't need to, just to be able to keep stacking sats until I felt like I had enough value to be able to provide the world, to be able to go out and do something. And I left that job and I was going to go start something. And then I just saw the need with my wife. I'm like, well, I'm going to give you everything I can here to be able to do it. And we've built something beautiful. But I think for anyone starting on their journey, if you can stick to 4 years, like week in, week out, or day in, day out, or month in, month out, whatever that payment cycle is, consistently, and every little small bit of win or whatever, and then you start to see things like, oh, I don't need the Porsche, I don't need the Lexus. Oh, there's so much money in the redraw, I'm going to take half of it and put it in. That's sort of what we did at the start, is like a quarter, like half, and then we're like, fuck, let's just take everything that we can out of it, you know, to be able to do it as the conviction builds. And
oh man, it's
so
I
hard
hear you.
when you do it and then like Bitcoin drops and then your wife, or my wife at least, hadn't understood Bitcoin as much. And she's like, we've done this all wrong. We've destroyed them. Like, just like, hang on. Like, we've still got more cash here. We're not doing that. It's going to zero. I'm like, it's not going to zero. Like, please, we have to do this now. So some like really hard conversations. But then you look back now and you're like, holy shit, like good. This kid on the street to now I'm talking to Matthew Fraser. Let's fucking go.
No, it's not a big deal talking to me. I'm just the average guy on the street. Started working at Macca's, you know, when I was 14 or whatever. But let me tell you an interesting story, because it was around 20, it was during the previous high, so around 21, something like that. Yeah. And I had just purchased this commercial property, and I was down at the commercial property and I had this contractor come in and he was doing some cleaning there, right? And I wasn't even in crypto at all. I was sort of, my eyes were open to it. I can't remember if I'd sort of either just started or whatever. But anyway, he came in one day and he's like, Matt, I've just bought $100,000 worth of Cardano, right? No kidding, 100,000, and I've taken it out of my mortgage. And I was like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. And I didn't even know what Cardano was, right? Now, the reason I shared this story to you, of course, is mainly for the listeners. You'll know the story. That thing tanked. Right? Yeah. That thing completely tanked. And I dare say he is now paying off 100 grand with probably a Cardano value of maybe 20 grand, right? Just brutal. God. So your point is right. Don't just rush out now at any point and just start ripping out whatever money you've got in the home loan. Although that's, you know, I took out some money, of course, and put into Bitcoin. One of the things I don't do so much is altcoins really, but yeah, it was good. Good. What about this, Sean? Do you also then use Bitcoin? I know you're maybe against it because you don't want to give it up, but Bitcoin as collateral. And let me just segue this into something, because
no,
don't answer yet.
The answer is no.
Well, let me tell you for the audience too, is that JP Morgan just this week announced under Jamie Dimon announced that they will now accept Bitcoin and Ethereum, actually, I thought was interesting, but predominantly Bitcoin as collateral, right? So you can basically give your Bitcoin to JP Morgan and they'll lend you cash off that. Now, do you think, because this is already something that you can do, right? But not with the major banks, but do you think the major banks in Australia will eventually do this?
Yeah, was it Hard Block that paired up with an Aussie bank to be able to allow allowed already in Australia? It's already been done here in Australia.
There's block
Matthew.
earner. There's a block earner company.
Block earner, maybe.
Yeah, but it's not affiliated with
Somebody's
a bank.
doing it. Okay. But yeah, definitely. Like, I was talking to this lady this morning when we were selling all her altcoins into Bitcoin and stuff, and they're like, what about like selling your Bitcoin for profit? I'm like, Bitcoin is the profit. Anyway, like after a couple of minutes, we worked through that. I said, they're like, I just want to know what to say. I'm like, your hardest thing is getting fiat into Bitcoin. To get Bitcoin back into fiat, they'll accept it straight away. Like, it's an instant deposit most of the time into your bank account. Like, you've got no issue. The banks, once they have control, they either want control of the fiat in the bank account, or when they have the access to be able to control Bitcoin, they're going to go for it. It's pristine collateral. Like, why would they not? As a business model, anyone that can lock up your Bitcoin and give you fiat dollars or Bitcoin back or whatever, but they've got your Bitcoin there to be able to sell at the drop of the hat if you can't repay, or the market turns and your loan to value ratio goes out. It's amazing, and it makes, like, it's a no-brainer from a business point of view. They're taking on no risk at all. Like, the person that's loaning them the coins has taken on all the risk. So 100% it's come. And I think we'll see that, I reckon, within the next 3 years, if not before. And I think that'll be the pivot where in Australia it nearly becomes impossible or very hard to get Bitcoin into actual self-custody. And they'll be pushing more, letting the banks collaborative custody it, or letting the ETFs and stuff. So I think it is going to be big. It's going to be huge. At the moment, the interest rate, like, you can get 6% on fiat with your redraw, where the Bitcoin's like 12%. I am not giving you the world's best collateral, the best form of money to ever exist, to pay twice the amount of interest. Like, no. Like, I would pay maybe if there's a 1% interest loan or something like that. But even in my mind, I just think, no, just go out.
Okay, but I'm gonna push you on this, Sean. I'm gonna push you on this. This was posed to me last night in a group meeting, and they said, look, Matthew, let's say you've got $1 billion worth of valued Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
What's the point of just holding that until you die? Wouldn't you either sell some of the Bitcoin to have what I guess Raul says is lifestyle chips, or at least borrow against a portion of your stack to go and use, whether that be the Lamborghini or the house or the overseas trip, whatever it is, right? Whatever your heart desires. Is that something that you could see yourself doing?
No. But does that mean that may change in the future? Possibly. But like where I am now, my consciousness, my mindset, absolutely not. However, I guess for other people, and I've spoken to Tony Asbeck, Adam Hudson and stuff in regards to this, and I've got a couple of thoughts that I've formed. People are going to want to loan and leverage, play against their Bitcoin and stuff. Bitcoin's $115,000 US. A lot of people feel like they've missed the boat. Like, they haven't. It's still under $1 million. It's cheap, ladies and gentlemen. But like, I get it. So people are going to go out on the risk curve and take on leverage or loan against their Bitcoin to be able to get fiat, maybe to buy more Bitcoin or just lifestyle chips. You do you, ladies and gentlemen, but I'd recommend like no more than 10% of that stack locked up. And then a lot of that, with that, so say you give them one Bitcoin to loan against, you can probably only loan 50% of that. Yeah. But if you go exactly 50%, Bitcoin drops down, then you're going to get a margin call. So then you've got, 90% to be able to top that up, and you're really only putting such a small portion of your Bitcoin at risk. But I think until the interest rates change and the banks and stuff start to value Bitcoin for the pristine collateral that it actually is, like, I have no real interest of it. I think we will get there over time. But yeah, I just buy, stack and chill, Matt, and just try to have more sats this week than last week without leverage.
Hey guys, real quick, if you're ready to take your crypto investments to the next level, check out Imperial Wealth. They'll show you their entire portfolio, share tips from their most successful moves, and their 35-person team watches the market 24/7 and recently tipped a coin that 5x'd in just 4 days. Click the link in the show notes to learn more, Now back to the episode.
I think because I used to be a mortgage broker in my 20s, and so I'm always thinking about loans, leverage in a way, but I'm not talking about like 10x leverage. I'm just like talking about lending against something and manipulating, to how can I get more Bitcoin? Like that's the ultimate goal. One of the things I did recently was I had to spend about $1.2 million on a Hungry Jack's, I've got the Hungry Jack's store down here, and I had to do a renovation on it.
Yeah.
Now I could have taken that 1.2 and just dumped it into the store and renovated it, but I didn't do that. Instead, I was like, you know what, I want more Bitcoin, and I just can't justify giving all this up, right? So I went and bought a stack of Bitcoin. It was about $1 million or something. Then I just borrowed against it, took out, and then let's say 500,000, put that into the store, and then came up with some other money elsewhere. Yeah. You see? So now I've been able to increase my stack. So I don't know if it's Bitcoin gymnastics or loan gymnastics or something to try and just, how can I forever increase my stack? And I actually found that one of the lenders, they would lend you up to 50%. It was actually only a 10% rate, which is still pretty high, right? But I'm thinking Bitcoin's growing at like, 40, 50% a year. So if I'm paying 10% interest, and here's the other thing, the 10% interest is capitalized, which means that you don't even have to make an ongoing repayment. So it doesn't come out of your cash flow, you see? And you just worry about it at the end of the 12-month period. So either you have to pay the interest down or you have to put more Bitcoin in. Or if the Bitcoin's increased, then you don't have to make any repayment, just roll the debt over. So, and one note too, I noticed I did some background checks because I was also concerned about you, like thinking about liquidation. They'll actually let you go up to about, depending on which lender, 70 to 80% loan to value ratio before liquidation. So in the case of Bitcoin dropping. So it's interesting, just some Bitcoin gymnastics there, Sean.
And like, this is just my opinion and my mindset. You talk to somebody else and they'll be like, yeah, I loan against my Bitcoin all the time. But then I guess when you talk to someone like Tony Yazbek or whatever, he's like, if you need the cash, just sell it, pay the capital gains or whatever, and then be done with it. And like totally like remove yourself from the fiat games. And that's my mindset. Like, I'm here for the freedom money side of things, but we're also lucky that if I needed to take out a big loan or anything like that, because the house has gone up so much and we're in the fortunate position that we own, well, the bank owns the family home, but we have that real estate and we bought it 10 years ago, that it's a 6% interest rate, or it's under 6%, so that's so easier money, and I'm not putting any of my Bitcoin at risk. They could take the house, I couldn't care. They're not taking my Bitcoin.
So do you think as your property value, let's say, or the inflation on your property just keeps going up, you can just re-borrow against your property? Would you consider doing that and just dumping that into Bitcoin over and over?
I don't, probably not. Like, I try to check myself with the greed. Like, yes, I want more and more and more Bitcoin, and the answer to Bitcoin is always more and more and more and more and more. Like, it never ends. But I think I want to be able to do that by leveling up the business and our marketing and streamlining everything like that. So it's actually cash and it's totally debt-free, and it's obviously the money is going into the bank account, but we're not dealing with the bank with loans and stuff. We're not beholden to them. Once the cash is ours, we've paid the OTO, paid all the GST, etc. Any profit can just go into Bitcoin. So just trying to run a more and more profitable business.
Makes sense. Because so basically what you're doing, Sean, is you've got this business that's just creating the cash flow. You live off that, right? You've already got this stack of Bitcoin over here, and you can just basically not touch that. But at the same time, if you want, stack towards that ongoing, right? That's the play. You touched on something that was, I know you glossed over it, but you said Bitcoin greed. And I find I've got to check myself on this too sometimes, because I'm like, oh, I just need more Bitcoin. So the question is really, and I get this a lot, when is enough enough?
It's not. It's... Dude, the answer's always more Bitcoin. I know that doesn't sound good, but say like people really latch on to the $440,000 by November this year. Like, it's not happening. It's not happening. I've been calling consistently that it won't. People are like, oh, you're so bearish, or it's going to 250,000. Maybe, maybe not. Whatever. Like eventually it will. But if you need it at 250,000 and it's at 125,000, all that means is you need twice the amount of Bitcoin. You don't need Bitcoin's price to be twice as high. You just need twice the amount of Bitcoin. So sort of that's the way that I approach it is, you know, when I have $100 million, just making up a hypothetical number, I'll be happy. For that to happen, I need Bitcoin at X amount of price. Well, Bitcoin's at this price now, so that just means that I need this much more Bitcoin now. Yeah, like it's hard. Say I gave myself the promise that I'd stop flying for 4 years and I'd just buy Bitcoin week in, week out, or every 2 weeks. Then I got to the 4-year mark and I'd made all that money and stuff. I'm like, no, fuck it. Like, let's keep going. Let's go for 1 more year. Okay. And so I did it. And then I got to the 5-year mark and I was like, Sean, what are you doing? And I say to myself, I'm getting more Bitcoin. I'm like, how much more Bitcoin do you need, bro? Like, I just need more Bitcoin. And like the young little boy inside of me is like, dude, I need to fucking go flying. Like, what are you doing? So I called the guy up and then got my medical and sorted out a check flight. I tried to cancel it because the cyclone was off the coast and stuff. I'm like, no, like we're going today. I booked this in a month ahead. And he's like, it's too windy, bro. I'm like, what do you mean it's too windy? He's like, 36 knot crosswind or 32 knot cross. He's like, it's 26 knot crosswind. I'm like, and? He's like, you're only allowed to fly up to a 32 knot crosswind. I'm like, great, it's 26, let's go. And then got it. But like listening to myself and that younger kid inside of me is like, Sean, like, what are your dreams? You're in a position where you could literally do whatever you wanted. You're everything that you've dreamed of. Why don't you do it? And I got into crypto to buy an aeroplane. And I made enough money for an aeroplane and I put that money in Bitcoin. But the thing is, once I put it in a Bitcoin, it's not coming out. So like now I've got this Bitcoin and no aeroplane.
You've got Bitcoin,
so
no plane.
Like, yeah. So now I'm like, oh, I need to make the company more profitable to be able to get more cash so I can get an aeroplane. But then we make profits in the company and then I put it into Bitcoin. And then once it's in Bitcoin, it's not coming out to be able to buy the toys. So I struggle with this all the time, this greed and stuff. But
so
taking a moment.
Yeah, but Sean, this comes back to the question then. If you've got, even if I say $10 million worth of Bitcoin, are you telling me that you wouldn't even borrow 500 grand out of that and go buy your plane?
Correct.
Okay, you've heard it from me. You've heard it here, folks. Recorded live. Sean Clarke is stoic.
Just stack sats and just get more Bitcoin. Like, Matt, the way I see it is we get digital IDs at the end of the year. And then what happens? Then they bring out central bank digital currencies. And then what happens? Then we have social credit scores. Then what happens? Everyone in the fiat system is a fucking slave. They're entrapped. They have no freedom. They have no fuck you money. They are beholden. If the government says jump, they say they jump. If here's a jab, they fucking take the jab. Like, everyone is absolutely fucked if they don't hold Bitcoin in self-custody. If they don't want to hold Bitcoin in self-custody, maybe physical gold, it's not going to work as well, but it's still an amazing medium of exchange and a store of value. If you don't have one of those two, and Bitcoin's the better one, but if you don't have either of those two, I'm scared shitless about that. Maybe I've taken it way too far in my mind. Maybe I've gone down far too many rabbit holes and we're not going to know until it's too late. But I don't want to get to that point where I'm one day too late and realize, oh, fuck, you fucked up. You should have saved on to that extra $1 million of Bitcoin, that extra $10 of Bitcoin or $100 of Bitcoin. The numbers don't matter. It's just about having more Bitcoin, because not everyone's going to have Bitcoin. All your friends don't have Bitcoin. Your family doesn't have Bitcoin. Your community doesn't have Bitcoin. But the people here paying attention now, stacking sats, have the opportunity to be able to look after themselves, put on our own oxygen mask first, and then help our spouse, our family, our children, our friends, and then to be able to go out in the community, like what Peter Dunworth is doing in Bedford. That's the power of Bitcoin. And we're not at the stage of central bank digital currencies yet, but they're coming. And then what happens to China? Or what happened to the Bank of Thailand, with the Bank of Thailand recently? Brought out digital IDs, people didn't get them, like millions of bank accounts just closed. Like, that's insane. The mission that I'm on now is Bitcoin in self-custody. And I think we've got 3 years at the very most. And the people that have Bitcoins will be the people that have yachts. And then everyone else will have nothing. And that's absolutely fucked. So yes, I'm stacking for myself, but I'm also stacking for my circle. And then we get to that point And if it's not as bad as everything, Bitcoin's still number go up technology, so we get more and more wealthy. But if shit hits the fan, Matt, we've got freedom money, so we can be sovereign, we can help out our friends and family. If we want to eat steak when they're serving WEF bug protein, we can eat steak. And that's what's going to happen. Their carbon credit scores, banks are already starting to track it and all that bullshit. So it's now. And then we get to that point, say the worst happens, only one with Bitcoin. Okay, everyone else is going to want Bitcoin. How easy is it to get a plane then with that amount of Bitcoin? Like fucking super easy. People will be giving away absolutely everything they can for Bitcoin. So again, like the answer to me now is just more. And maybe that's not a healthy emotional place to be able to live from, because I'm terrified of digital IDs and central bank digital currencies on one sense, but on the other sense that I know that I have Bitcoin in self-custody, I'm running my own node, you know? So it gives me that peace of mind, but I don't want to give up any of that peace of mind where I've worked and like stayed in that job around people that were just nice and kind and everything like that, but they were just aiming for mediocrity and stuff. Like I dealt with that day in, day out to be able to live and fulfill this mission and be on purpose. I'm not going to give that up to the bank to be able to pay twice the amount of interest where I can just loan against the house if I wanted to or whatever. So that's my rant on that.
I fucking love it. That was the best.
Bitcoin in self-custody, ladies and gentlemen, like it's fucking really important, in my opinion. But
yeah,
we'll fuck around and find out. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, I hope you're wrong too. But what you're saying though, Sean, is the signs are there. You know what I mean? Like you look at the UK right now, they're rolling out their digital ID. They're doing it under the guise of protecting everybody against the invasion and working and this, that, and the other. And it just changes basically daily, this digital ID thing. And I think Australia will, it's already really started down that, of course, with the digital ID essentially to protect the children against the social media, right? Which is, I'm surprised people aren't just like marching in the street against this step. Right? I think in Australia though, they're just so blasé, but they're so blasé about it. Like, oh, no, we'll just go along with it. We'll just go along with it. But, you know, let me tell you, I actually sat down with someone once and I said, you know, this digital ID could be coming. They went, yeah, we think it's good. I was like, what? They said it was good. Yeah, because you need to, you know, streamline things and, you know, there's nothing in their words.
Faster.
No, in their words, Sean, it was, we've got nothing to hide. Yeah, we've got nothing to hide, so the government can take all our ID and this, that, and the other, and make it all digital. And then, but I said you could be going down to the credit score system like you have in China. Like they're like, yeah, I don't think they really got the concept of it. I think it's absolutely terrifying, to be honest. And I actually, you know, I've got children, so I'm sort of thinking about them. You know, what sort of world are they going to live in as well?
Well, this bill will protect them. That's what the government reckons.
Yeah, well,
it's just a load of nonsense. It's always about control. And that doesn't mean they're going to bring it out, Matthew, and then it's going to be dystopian from day one. No, they're going to wait for another crisis, or they're going to plan another crisis a couple of years down the track, but they've got everything in place. And I guess this is why I was railing against Division 296 so much with the $3 million unrealized capital gains tax so much. I don't have $3 million in my super. It will hit that. And it'll far exceed. And that's the point of having Bitcoin in self-custody in your self-managed super fund. Like you recommend people do it, use Matt's link and get a Bitcoin self-managed super fund, or talk to someone at least about it, because it's probably the only thing that's going to get you 3 million threshold. Nowhere near it. And people like, it's only going to affect a small portion. I'm like, you're missing the point, ladies and gentlemen. Once they bring in unrealized capital gains, the way it's written, it could apply to the family home. Like, just like having an unrealized capital gains as a communist tax for number one. Like, it's no other OECD nation has one. Anyway, if they want to bring it in, that's just total wealth confiscation, communism in this country. And then people are like, oh, it only affects 0.1% or whatever of people. Okay, like they're the people that have done really well. They've played by the rules. They've sacrificed there now for their retirement, so they're not a burden to society. And you want to change the rules on those people, the ones that have provided value? Like, no, I'm not having that. But then again, it's not about that. It's just once that law is in place, or that bit of legislation that allows them to tax unrealised capital gains on super balances, something happens, the bond market or whatever blows up. They're like, oh, we need to come after your house now. You know, and people are like, oh, that'll never happen. But a couple of years ago said, well, unrealised capital gains tax never happened in this country.
Yeah.
And we just missed it.
We just missed it, yeah.
But like any power, they're never going to give back. They'll just take more and they'll build on top of it, and it'll get worse and worse and worse. And we're not going to notice these incremental totalitarian footsteps that they're doing. But you'll wake up in 5 or 10 years and realise, like,
how did we get here?
How'd we get here? Yeah. But people are just sort of shell-shocked or PTSD, and they don't notice that noose or the shackles are getting tighter.
What do you think then, Sean? You know, Labor has done the backflip on the unrealised capital gains tax, so now they've scrapped that apparently, and the new proposal is 30% tax above $3 million and 40% tax above $10 million. Yeah. Do you think, because this was posed to me, that the unrealised capital gains tax was actually never the intention? It was this other huge tax above the 10 million. 40% is a big chunk. Do you think this was always the goal, or do you actually think it was a backflip against people opposing the unrealised capital gains?
Yeah, I've heard that theory as well, and who knows? I don't know if we could give them enough credit to be that smart so many years out. Obviously, they have, you know, PR firms, propaganda, public relation firms behind them, helping them with their messaging. But they have been trying to do that unrealised capital gains tax and push it through consistently for a couple of years as well. It's not like it started off, or there's any conversation about higher taxes. It started with unrealised capital gains tax, but who knows? Yes, like the tax, like any tax, I think we pay far too much tax, but I still believe for the majority of people, it is in a better situation. It's so hard. Who knows? Like, how are we ever going to know?
Yeah, speaking of taxes, and this comes up a lot now because we live in one of the highest taxed countries in the world. It's absolutely insane in this country. Yeah. No incentive whatsoever for people to work the extra shift or the overtime or anything like that, or to do well in business. Is moving out of Australia something that you and your wife have considered? You know, much like, you know, you interviewed Adam Hudson, for example. He's in Cyprus. I'm planning on getting a golden visa to Dubai at the very least. Is this something that you think about?
Yeah, so I've already got a second Plan B passport in the country undisclosed, which is good. It's not necessarily a...
Tasmania is not another country though, Sean.
We are actually going to Tassie next month, or maybe this weekend. I don't know. We're going to Tassie soon. I've never been there before, to be able to check it out. I look forward to going there.
It looks beautiful. I've never been either.
Yeah, dude, it looks absolutely stunning. I'll appreciate the cooler weather. Hopefully it's got so hot and humid here. But, yeah, so we've already got that in place. And the place is fucking nowhere near as dystopian as here. But truth be told, like, where's as beautiful as Australia, mate? Like, I walk upstairs, we're looking out at islands surrounded by the coral reef, for example, and there's a lot of them, and then not far... You know, up the road, there's a beautiful rainforest and stuff. Like, to be able to do that, or you go down to Victoria, staying out of Melbourne, because that place is crazy, but like you go out into to the Dandenong Ranges and stuff, or the Yarra Valley, like that's God's country. It's just like, or the Sunshine Coast hinterland, for example, the beaches on the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, the Sydney, the northern beaches, etc. Tasmania looks beautiful. Western Australia, the reefs, everything like that. Like, what place beats Australia? And I live in a small little town, so we don't have like all the wokeness and the division and people like marching through the streets and causing nuance and all that stuff. We've avoided a lot of that during COVID and stuff. It stayed like super pretty chill. Like, we didn't really notice that was going on. So I'm not immersed in that so much. So we'll stay here for as long as possible. But like if we need to go, we'll go straight away.
What do you think? Because I have this conversation with my wife. Is like I say, look, what is the breaking point? At what point do you say, okay, we're out? Do you have something in mind, like like digital IDs, for example?
Well, unrealized capital gains was probably the biggest one. Yeah, it's like when that passed, a subscriber, sent me a text message and like they've shut it down, and I just jumped and Yahoo'd and stuff. I was just like, holy shit, I could breathe again. I felt like I hadn't been able to breathe for 9 months, a year from that. So that would have been one. Digital IDs, we're going to see how we can navigate those as much as possible. We'll see, obviously a close relationship with Tony with the Bitcoin way and stuff, so they can put, there's things like VPNs, different phones and stuff, but we'll just see what happens with that, and then we'll judge it from there. Digital IDs paired with CBDCs, that's time probably to get the fuck out of here if that happens. That's like the digital IDs I don't think are an issue in and of themselves, but they become an issue very quickly once they're paired with digital IDs, because that means the social credit scores are coming very quickly, and that's when things get dystopian. So I think that would probably be one of those moments where we really need to sit down as a family. And
someone, I was watching another podcast recently, and they were talking about, actually, it might have even been with Tony from the Bitcoin Way. Actually, I think I was watching his podcast, and he was saying, look, the KYC in itself, when you have to know your customer, you go through all the checks in Australia to basically open up anything now. That in itself is not bad. Showing your ID to open up an account doesn't seem like something bad, but it's the effect of that is a centralized database now has all of your information. And even if you said, well, they're not going to do anything nefarious with the data, other people hack into the system and they steal your data.
That's right.
Right? So we've created this honeypot for criminals that want to steal our data and use it for bad things. Now, you could argue then, well, we should scrap KYC then, because then we wouldn't have this centralized system, because what happens is the criminals steal the data, then they can come back and try and scam you out of all your assets, including your Bitcoin, right? So we've actually created another problem, right? Shouldn't they just scrap it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they can. It's perpetuated for safety and anti-money laundering and fraud and stuff like that. Like, how much fraud, how many billions of dollars have gone through JP Morgan as a bank, for example? Like, it really doesn't stop the fraud. All it does is put people like you and I, or the ladies and gentlemen watching this video, at risk, the everyday person. Like that, Matt, they want to bring out this digital ID in Australia. The government's creating it, and who knows if it works or not. But the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, his phone number got leaked through a data hack or whatever.
Right.
The Prime Minister of Australia, they can't keep his private mobile phone number safe, and they want to collect everyone's information in Australia for every single thing. We are doomed. We are doomed.
Yeah,
stuff.
And you know what else, just on politics for a second, Tony Burke came out recently and said that he wants to start cracking down on Bitcoin ATM machines, right? As if apparently it's money laundering and things like this, right? Want to crack down on the Bitcoin ATM machines. No one really, even who's in the Bitcoin space, even uses those anyway.
They're so expensive, I've never used them.
They're so expensive. But here's the thing. Criminals are also using mobile phones. Should we just go and ban mobile phones?
Well, dude, it's sort of like that reaction in Victoria to the machetes. There's machete attacks, so they put out bins and they want to ban machetes.
So stupid.
Who's that hurt? That hurts the farmers. I've got a machete. I live in Queensland, so I'm not breaking the law. Like, it is so stupid. I'll grab the machete, I'll put it in my teeth, I'll climb up a coconut tree and I'll cut out a bunch of coconuts. And it's just a tool. I'm using it for good. The farmer's using it for sugarcane or whatever, but it's the farmers that were handing the machetes so that they're not breaking the law. And there's still machete attacks. Or once they brought out that, there's hammer attacks or screwdriver attacks or whatever. Like, just problem, reaction, solution. They're just trigger happy to be able to do these things that don't make any sense whatsoever.
Totally agree. Well, I think, Sean, we're probably going to start winding it up now because we've just been talking for so long, and the rant that you put in there was absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to cut that piece out specifically and then plaster it everywhere, which is awesome. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the show. Thank you so much for everything that you do in the Bitcoin pilling, orange pilling space, I should say. And I hope to have you back on the episode in the future. Anything you want to say to wrap things up?
Ladies and gentlemen, please study Bitcoin, The Big Print. It's an amazing book by an amazing man. If you read it front to back cover and you choose not to buy Bitcoin, at least you understand enough to make an informed decision. I've only had one person say Bitcoin's not for me, and he's a very, very wealthy guy. It doesn't matter what happens in the fiat.
Where can people find you? Because we'll put the links down below in the show notes.
Yeah, G'day Bitcoin on YouTube, as well as Spotify, Fountain app, and Apple Podcast. At Sean Clarke 911 on X, and g'daybitcoin.com on the website. I've put consolidated a whole lot of links that should help speed up your Bitcoin journey there, and you can reach out to contact me with anything.
Awesome. And I highly recommend people follow Sean wherever he goes on X and YouTube, etc. I've been following him for years. He's a true legend of this space in Australia. Thanks so much, Sean.
Appreciate you, Matt. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning into Crypto Collective. If you enjoyed this video, the best way to show your support is to subscribe to the channel, or if you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. It really helps me to create more content just for you. Also, if you're ready to level up your crypto journey, make sure to check out Coinstash. It's the platform that I trust to buy, sell, and hold crypto with ease. You can also find more of me at I'm Matthew Fraser on all social media platforms. Take care.